In studio, Dr. Michio Kaku. I said that correctly, right, sir?
That's right. You sure did.
You have one of those names that is just fun to say. Dr. Michio Kaku. You're on the Opie and Anthony show. You like to say Oppie, though.
Yes,
We
I
have
think I do.
we have a very famous little clip from you, famous to the listeners, that we like to play a lot, where you mispronounce my name because it's like a famous physicist or something.
As in Oppenheimer, father of the atomic bomb.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Father of the atomic bomb.
Oh, maybe I should know
you
that
should
one.
know him. Oppie.
Oppie.
Yeah, he headed up the Manhattan Project. Yes. See, I watch the all the good channels, my friend, and I'm not even going to try. What channel are you on, sir?
What do you mean?
Your show.
Well, I'm on the Science Channel.
Science Channel.
Yeah, every Sunday night, giving you the lineup of shows. And this November, my book, Physics of the Impossible, will be made into a 12-episode series for the Science Channel.
Really?
One chapter on lightsabers, one chapter on ray guns and Death Stars, one chapter on force fields, 12 episodes starting in November. And we're about a third of the way filming. We've been filming all over the country, the most fantastic physics sites of the world.
Now, do you actually try to create some of these items like a lightsaber?
That's right. What we do is we take impossible technologies like lightsabers and break it down, go to the laboratories, and show you at what point it finally becomes impossible.
Oh, okay.
And then with animation, we complete it. So by the end of the show, you have a working lightsaber with a few missing parts.
Do you estimate how close we are to actually having those things, like without needing animation?
That's right. I call them Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Class 1 is a few decades to maybe a century before we have them. Like a starship. It'll be about a century before we have the first working starship.
Yeah? You think 100 years or so we should have?
Yeah, with the Antimatter. We were just a few days ago filming in Chicago at America's largest atom smasher, where they make antimatter.
Really?
Yeah, we actually showed a canister which in principle can hold antimatter inside.
Now, how would that? Through some type of magnetic field?
Yeah, holding antimatter is quite complicated because if you touch it the wrong way, it blows up.
Yeah, I would assume. Now, how do you get rid of the matter that is inside the container to put the antimatter in it so it doesn't then cancel it out?
Yeah, well, first you have to evacuate it. Any air would destroy the antimatter.
Yes.
By the way, next month, Tom Hanks is going to be starring with an antimatter bomb called Angels and Demons. The whole plot line is that there's a secret society after the Da Vinci Code that wants to blow up the Vatican, and they're going to blow it up with an antimatter bomb. So they've been interviewing physicists left and right for that program to get some of the facts right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they want to get a few things right.
What is antimatter?
Antimatter is the opposite of matter, so it has the opposite charge. An electron has a positron, has a positive charge. And when you go to the hospital and they want to take a look at inside of your brain, they have what we call a PET scan. The P stands for positron, which is the anti-electron. So you have antimatter in a hospital.
So is it the absence of matter or a different kind of matter?
Different kind of matter. So that an electron and an anti-electron touch each other and they annihilate 100% efficiency. Now, a hydrogen bomb is 1% efficient. You lose 90%.
Jeez.
You lose 90% in a hydrogen bomb. I know because my friends work on these things. But
my friends drink.
You should see some of
Jesus.
No, I was offered a job by my mentor, Edward Teller, to design hydrogen warheads. But I didn't want to work on things as small as hydrogen warheads. I wanted to work on an even bigger explosion.
Really?
The Big Bang.
Yes, the whole creation of the universe.
The big kahuna, right? That's what I wanted to work on.
Jeez.
What about the 3 telescope system you said that's going up that's supposed to be able to see through? What is it? There's dust that's like, 300,000 years that keeps us from seeing the
Yeah,
the
we're going
exobang?
to, in about 10 years, we're going to be launching 3 satellites that'll give us baby pictures of the instant of creation. It's called LISA. And we'll be able to see the universe as it comes out of the womb. And maybe an umbilical cord. Maybe it'll pick up an umbilical cord that takes us before the Big Bang. So that's coming in about 7 to 10 years.
This is some stuff that's very hard to wrap your mind around, is actually seeing things that had happened because of the distance being so far.
That's right. But we have pictures of the Big Bang, baby pictures of the explosion itself.
Really?
So some people don't believe in the Big Bang, which is okay. I tell my students that they can believe that the Easter Bunny created the universe if they want. But we have photographs. We have photographs of the explosion itself, 300,000 years after the instant of the explosion. And it does look like an explosion.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wait, is that new? Because I've only seen the dust where they say we can't see through the. What were those? The Hubble couldn't see through the dust, or they built the Hubble to see through the dust?
Well, there's
Does something about the dust?
Yeah, I say dust a lot. Yeah, they had no dust mop. It was boo.
There's a haze that we have photographed that dates back to 300,000 years after Genesis, after the instant of creation itself. That we have photographed.
Nice.
So we have actually photographed the fireball that created the universe, baby pictures of the infinite universe.
Wow.
So, what do you think it's going to look like? The actual photo. Because you could probably point to anything and just tell us that that's what it is. What's it going to look like? You said the moment it comes out.
Well, we don't lie to you.
No, I mean,
your taxpayers' money.
but most of us don't know. So I would know. I don't know. I have no idea. Do you have any kind of an idea of what it's going to look like, or is it going to look like many other photos, but you'll just know what it is?
Well, it looked like an explosion. We know the temperature of the explosion, and we know the temperature today is cooled down. It's cooled down to about 3 degrees above absolute zero. And when you turn on the Opie and Anthony show, and the dial goes slightly off, and you hear that buzz, that static, about 10% of it is from Genesis.
Really?
From creation itself, yeah. Static, about 10% of static on the Earth and throughout the universe is leftover radiation from the Big Bang itself. I tell you, man, this is heavy stuff.
That's fantastic. It's just going through you at every moment.
That's
and
right.
It's around you.
It's around you, and it's in you. You really feel part of the universe. Part of the explosion is part of you.
But like, how do you know that? Like, it's like, how do you know? Like, you listen to static and someone goes, you know what? I'll bet you 10% of that comes from the creation of time. Like, who puts that together?
Okay, well, first of all, we know that, about 50% of static comes from Jupiter. Okay, you're actually listening to the planet Jupiter. Jupiter's the noisiest planet in the solar system.
50% of the static.
Of the static, that's right. So
Jupiter.
Jupiter's fat and it yaps a lot. It's one of our listeners.
So our space probes have listened to the static from Jupiter, and we found, oh my God, that static also occurs on the Earth, and about 50% of it comes from Jupiter, and about 10% from Genesis. You're actually listening to chapter 1, verse 1 of the Bible.
And what is absolute zero?
Well, that's a state of no motion, like what we have here. No energy, no motion.
That was the bit we watched earlier from AAF.
Well, where you at? Where you at with the Bible? Do you believe in like a God, or energy, or?
Well, that's the
How do you
killer
describe
question,
that?
right? Well, Einstein was asked that question. I don't know how many times he was asked that question. He finally said, look, there are two kinds of God. Two kinds of God. The first God is the God that smites the Philistines and parts the water, answers your prayers, and the God you pray to. But then the second God, he said, is the God that he believed in, the God of Spinoza, order, the God of beauty, simplicity, truth. That's what he believed in. He didn't believe that a God was created to smite your enemies. He believed that the God is a God of order that created this great universe of ours. That's how he put it.
That's very logical.
Pretty heavy duty stuff right there.
Yeah.
Time travel. Like when you're traveling the speed of light,
Yeah.
they say you age differently than people on Earth.
That's right. We measure it. Our astronauts are slightly younger when they come back from outer space. That's right. And GPS,
Uncle
GPS
Paul.
would fail if we didn't take that into consideration.
Really? That's taken into consideration?
Yeah, the GPS satellites, time is slowed down for the GPS satellites, and time speeds up on the moon. An astronaut on the moon is speeded up compared to an astronaut on the Earth.
But how does that actually work? Where if you travel at the speed of light, they said for how long, and you'd come back and all the people you know would be dead?
Well, it depends on how close you go to the speed of light. For example, just a few days ago, I was in Chicago filming at Fermilab, America's largest atom smasher. Particles there go 99.99999% the speed of light. So if you got shot to Alpha Centauri, we would age maybe 100 years, while people in the spaceship going to the stars would only age a few minutes.
Come on.
Yeah,
I can't wrap my arms around that.
Is it? I'm guessing that's the closest star to us. Is that 4.3 light years?
Well, Alpha Centauri is 4.5 light years away. Right?
Okay, it's
You
like.
got a gig there?
Believe now. What do you talk about on such a long trip? So it would take you to get there at the speed of light. It would take you 4.3 3 years.
At the fastest, right. 4.3 years to get to our nearest star, Alpha Centauri.
And how old would everybody be when you came back?
Well, see, if you're inside the spaceship, time slows down for you, and you're almost stopped in time. So people on the Earth looking at you inside the rocket ship would see you frozen. So for you, it may have only taken you a few minutes to go to Alpha Centauri, but on the Earth, it's aged 4 years.
I don't. But
Wow.
how does that? I don't understand it. It's almost like, and this is why we joke about how you talk about things very simplistically to people, because you're talking to turtles. I mean,
That's hard.
I mean, you talking to us is the way we would talk to turtles. Like you these very basic things that you say, which for you are very easy. I can't grab it. Like
Can't wrap your mind around
Well,
it.
look at it this way. Time is a river, old man river, that speeds up and slows down as it meanders throughout the universe. And we measure this. Time beats faster on the moon, for example, than it does on the Earth. They have a clock on the moon, clock on the Earth. By golly, the clock on the moon is racing slightly faster than a clock on the Earth. So time is not linear. It's a river that meanders. Now, the new wrinkle on all this that I mentioned in my book is that the river of time can fork into two rivers. And the river of time can have whirlpools, which may make time travel possible. So we're talking about a whole new realm of reality, the ability to perhaps go backwards in time and meet your teenage mother before you're born.
That's Back to the Future stuff.
Yeah. That's now there are a lot of schools of thought of time travel that have been used on movies, television shows.
Terminator.
And Terminator is one, obviously, Back to the Future. And Lost now has delved into the time travel thing. Which school of thought are you as far as time travel? Are you the Biff Tannen hotel casino version where timeline can split off? Or are you the linear time travel where you go back and forth and there's no real changing of history?
And then there's the Terminator type.
Yes,
time
where
travel,
you keep trying
and destroy the past.
and wreck the past in order to save the future, but never seems to work.
I'm of the school that the river of time forks into two rivers. So,
Only two?
Well, possibly 3, 4, depending on how many times you go into your time machine. You can have some real paradoxes unless the river of time forks. You know that you can be your own mother and your own father and your own son and daughter. Let's say I have a woman who then grows up and then decides that she wants to change into a man. Then as a man, he goes backwards in time to meet himself as a woman, makes love to himself, has a baby. Then they take that baby backwards in time, who becomes the young woman. At that point, you are your own mother, father, son, daughter, grandfather, great-granddaughter. Can you imagine a family get-together?
Just you in a room alone.
No, you have all your mother and father and different people of different ages in the same room. And you have a food fight with yourself.
Now, the paradox loop is very mind-boggling.
Yes.
When you think about it. And a simple example is going back in time and eliminating yourself as a child, killing yourself.
Yeah.
You would then cease to exist.
That's where time forks into two rivers. That one and then the new reality.
Hey, he's got it. Oh, my God.
Jimmy.
He's got it.
Jimmy knows.
Well, men of similar ilk, we think alike.
Oh,
Yes.
really? Yeah.
Does this open
Two
up
carbon units.
Does this open up the possibility of living forever, Doctor?
No, because in your own timeline, you age. You age in your own timeline. From the outside, it looks like a time traveler lives forever. But he has his own clock. He has his own watch. And that watch says that he's aging.
Okay.
So time travelers will age.
What about the 2012 theory?
Well, you know, NASA.
Is that the Mayan thing?
National Academy of Sciences just released a paper, it's all over the wire services, where they believe that in 2012 there could be, the sun could have a temper tantrum. There could be a tsunami from outer space that multiplies Katrina by a factor of a few thousand. And the property damage, according to this report, it's going to go to Congress. The damage could be up to $1 trillion per year. $1 trillion per year.
Sounds like Obama's tax plan. But I kid.
Okay.
But some saying that's the end of the world, 2012.
2012 is where the next sunspot cycle peaks. The sunspot cycle is every 11 years. The sun actually flips in its pole. North Pole becomes South Pole, South Pole becomes North Pole, and it creates a burst of radiation which then hits the Earth and could literally wipe out our satellites, wipe out power stations. Food will rot because there's no refrigerators. Communications will go down. Your bank account, your credit card, all that information lost because computers will be fried. Trillions of dollars in property damage per year. It will take years to recover from something like that.
And all the compasses that would just be obsolete.
Yeah. And all the iPods and, anything electronic.
So not the end of the world, just a real pain in the ass.
A huge one.
Inconvenience.
No, we're talking about food riots. We're talking about starvation.
That's
We're
good to
talking
know.
about mass unrest when people are literally starving in their apartment houses without any access to electrical appliances, credit cards wiped out, bank accounts wiped out.
With all that said, let's not forget Y2K was a bust. So
Remember, we don't know if 2012 is going to be another peak in the solar cycle. All we do know is that it will be peaking in 2012. And in 1859, when we just had telegraph wires, there was a huge, gigantic tsunami that was documented. It wiped out a lot of telegraph transmissions in the United States. If that thing had hit the Earth, it would have paralyzed our satellites. It would have paralyzed our power supplies. It would have caused mass rioting throughout not just one country, but the entire world. Anything that depends on electricity.
And back then, the telegraph went out.
Yeah,
They didn't
back
know
then
why.
they didn't know, and they didn't care.
I thought it was the engines, I bet.
and we're buying guns today.
That's it. Stock up. Guns
I'm all in now.
guns and stockpile food. Get in the bunker.
Now, there are people that listen to you and think, like, he's nuts. He's just come these great theories, but you can't prove them because they're in the future. It's like there are people that will say, oh, he's just making stuff, which, I don't think you're making stuff up at all, but it's like, how do you prove it? You can't prove it because it's in the future.
Well, that's why we're going to film it. We're going to Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Livermore National Laboratory, where they design hydrogen warheads. We're going to the laboratories, interviewing Nobel laureates, scientists about what they do. That they are working on the biggest laser beam ever constructed in history. They're working on artificial intelligence and robots. We're filming these people. And then, of course, we don't have lightsabers. We don't have ray guns. Why not? We ask them that. And then we do a little animation to show that in the coming decades, what a lightsaber would look like. What a ray gun would look like.
A lightsaber. What is the point where you reach that, here's what we don't have?
Well, the reason why we don't have jetpacks like in Jetsons, the reason why we don't have ray guns, the reason why we don't have hoverboards like in Back to the Future, it all points to one thing. We don't have a nano battery. We don't have a battery that you can put in your hand that can energize a ray gun. We can build a ray gun with a nuclear power plant behind you that'll fire,
right.
But then you have to carry a nuclear power plant into a firefight.
It's a little difficult, yes.
We have to miniaturize that nuclear power plant. And that's what we're also working on with nanotechnology, manipulating individual atoms to create a handheld battery that can energize a lightsaber, a ray gun, a jetpack, and your portable hover train.
What is this small power device based on?
Nanotechnology. We have the ability to manipulate individual molecules. So with our film crew, we went to MIT and we actually filmed growing these molecular things called nanotubes. And so we filmed the whole process of how you would actually cook carbon to create nanotube fibers that are stronger than steel. These are fibers, maybe just about 50 atoms across, stronger than steel. They're some of the strongest fibers known to science, and we grew some right before the camera to show this is not science fiction.
Really?
How big is 50 atoms across?
Pretty small, much smaller than a human hair.
Can you see it, though, with a microscope?
No, you can't even see it. Can't even see it.
But we know it's there.
We know it's there. Well, here with a microscope. Well, with a microscope, you could see it, but not with the naked eye. Yeah.
I want to interrupt because we got a very important phone call coming in.
We do.
Yes. Let me just grab this really fast.
Right.
Talking to Dr. Michio Kaku. Hello, sir.
Hi, can I talk to Opie and Anthony, please?
You're on the Opie and Anthony show.
This is Stephen Hawking.
No, it's not.
Stephen Hawking.
You
Wow.
don't.
Your voice has
Good morning,
changed.
Opie and Anthony, and happy birthday, little Jimmy.
Thank you, sir.
Jimmy.
You got a question for Dr. Michio Kaku?
Yes? I have a message for everyone.
Okay.
Your mom's box.
I don't know what that means.
All right. Should have thought that one through.
Yeah, right. He should have.
He probably wrote that one out before. Had potential.
But you know, Stephen was in the hospital. In fact, he's still in critical condition.
Oh, yeah,
But they're saying yesterday that he's going to make a full recovery, which confuses us.
Yeah.
Full recovery of everything or just his latest illness?
Just his latest illness,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
He communicates, by the
silly.
way, through facial gestures. He's lost control of his fingertips.
Wow.
He basically moves his eyeballs and moves his facial muscles. That's how he communicates with the world.
So he thinks math. Like, that's why he's so impressive. It's like math is bad enough when you're writing it down, but he thinks, like, he theorized black holes basically when he couldn't write, right?
Well, he can't write anymore. He lost control of his fingers. So he dictates ideas to his grad students, and then they carry out the ideas.
Well, they better be paying attention.
Man, right?
They better know how to read his eyeballs.
Yeah, that telephone game is not fun. It always gets messed up.
Sitting there taking notes, and you're just drawing eyeballs in certain directions.
Are we getting everything we can out of Stephen Hawking's his brain? You think, or we're way behind because he's blinking out all this stuff?
Yeah, well, I think he's peaked in terms of his ability to contribute original ideas because he can't move his fingers. Sooner or later, you got to get a sheet of paper and work out the consequences of your equations, and he can't do that. But you know, he basically is sort of like a North Star. He's sort of like a messenger giving us the agenda for the next 10, 20, 30 years for black hole research, Big Bang research. He lays out the big problems for us.
So is he as smart as Einstein or smarter?
Well, I think he's the most celebrated scientist since Einstein, but I think even he would say that Einstein outshines us all. Einstein, out of nothing, out of almost nothing, created relativity. What Hawking has done is he's taken Einstein's theory and tried to combine it with atomic physics.
Now, there's something I want to ask you, too. It's like black holes, okay? They say if you're going into a black hole, if you're within the event horizon and you're getting sucked in, but they say somebody watching you from the outside wouldn't just see you getting sucked in and disappearing. Like if you're watching someone, like say you're 10 feet beyond the event horizon, what would you see if somebody kind of crossed over that and began getting sucked into the black hole?
Okay, first of all, the event horizon is a sphere surrounding the black hole. It's the point of no return. So a black hole is like a Roach Motel. You check in and nothing ever checks out. So the event horizon is the boundary at which you check in and never check out again. As you approach the black hole, horrible things happen. First of all, the gravity squeezes you until you become a spaghetti, and then your atoms are then ripped apart, and this is called spaghettification. So even your atoms become spaghetti as the tidal forces between your head and your toe are so great that you're ripped apart. And as you pass through the event horizon, then of course you head toward the black hole and then you die.
Okay, so the minute you hit the event horizon, it starts to pull you like that, like
It's point of no return. You can't get out again. And then the question is, what happens as you head toward the very center? And that's where the controversy comes in. We used to say there was a dot there and you would hit the dot and die. We don't say that anymore because we photograph these things and they're all spinning. A spinning black hole collapses to a ring, not a dot. A ring, centrifugal force keeps it afloat. If you fall through the ring, you fall through the looking glass, and you may wind up on a parallel universe.
Now, what would somebody see if they were watching you get ripped apart like spaghetti?
They would see you almost frozen in time. From a distance, time slows down, it appears. So as you fall toward a black hole, you're in slow motion.
So as you're getting ripped apart, would they still see the image of you whole?
They would see the image of you whole being gradually torn apart by gravity. Gravity spaghettifies you, and they would see all that in slow motion. So from a distance, time seems to slow down.
Would it be messy?
It'd be very messy, right? Piece by piece, atom by atom, you're taken apart.
Yeah.
How long would it actually take, though? It would look like slow motion, but in reality, how long would it be taking?
Thousands of years. There's a science fiction story where they throw the bad guy into a black hole, and you watch him scream for 1,000 years. Now,
Why so long?
Because he's in slow motion as he heads toward the event horizon. Now, he himself, if you were to interview him, he himself would have said, it only took me less than a second to get sucked right into the center. Right? Boom, it's gone. But from the outside, light is distorted from the outside. So as a consequence, from the outside, it appears as if it takes 1,000 years for him to slowly be ripped apart atom for atom.
Now, how does it feel when you're explaining stuff like this, which to you is very basic, and we all just want to go, let's go over that again?
I know. We just keep pounding. It's like, what? What is that?
It's so hard to get, like, the basic I don't get.
Yeah, but just remember there are two clocks. One clock on the the guy who falls into the black hole,
Right.
and one clock outside. The two clocks read different numbers. And then it's not so hard. You can have two times. Time on the guy who's falling into the black hole.
Look,
and
they're exactly a minute apart. It's like Einstein, the dog, not the scientist. When he went back in the DeLorean and he returned, he had skipped over the minute. So he came back and their clocks were different, off by a minute. See? They each have their individual clocks.
Oh.
Dr. Brown had his, and Einstein had his clock. They started the same, see? They started the same, and then they ended a minute
Right.
different. Because the travel was instant for Einstein, but it took a minute for Doc Brown to see the DeLorean come back.
Einstein used to say that he put a clock everywhere in the universe, each one beating at a different rate. But in reality, he was too poor to actually buy one for himself.
Oh, those physicists and their jokes.
We couldn't take care of Einstein and get him a damn clock. Hey, what about Lost? Ann loves the Lost.
Well, I don't want to ruin. I'm not a spoiler.
Oh, is that the
like
problem?
that? Because they have delved into time travel on Lost.
right.
Okay, right.
And let me I'll be vague. I won't use names or anything like that. But if there's a circumstance where somebody goes back in time and shoots somebody, would that shot person have always been shot? When the person grows up, will they have a recollection of always having been shot by that person that went back in time and shot them?
Yeah, if you jump stream, if the river of time forks into two rivers, you jump stream from one stream to the other, meet somebody in the other stream, shoot them, they will have a normal evolution. They will always remember the fact that they were shot in that time stream.
Exactly, but here's the problem. What if the fact that you shot that person was based on the way the person was because you shot them?
How can you be on the basis of what you were in the past? How's
See,
that possible?
here it is. You shoot somebody. They grow up now and eventually meet you. And the reason that you went, you shot them as a child is you knew how they ended up when they grew up.
Oh, you knew the future, right?
It's yeah, you know the future, so you shoot them. But the only reason the person ended up that way is because you had shot them. You didn't kill them, by the way. You injured them.
Well, you've created an alternate universe. This is called the many worlds theory in physics. You've created an alternate universe where there's another fork in the road, and that fork, this person has a whole new life, independent of the life you thought he was going to lead.
But then they do grow up again and do annoy that person enough where the person wants to go back and shoot them as a child again, and you end up in a loop.
I think it's time for the people in white coats to take this man away.
Ant's actually spinning his finger in a circle.
I am.
Like explaining to Dr. Kaku what a loop would look like.
Paradox, a loop.
I think he's lost it.
But it would.
Look, he's babbling. He's babbling.
I'm babbling.
He really is a damn fool, isn't he?
I can't even tell him I'm not because he would know.
Yeah, of
I'm
course you are.
babbling.
And he has his hand up and he's making the circle motion. It's like a loop and his eyes are wide.
But it makes a paradox loop where history keeps repeating itself.
But it doesn't, you see, because the river of time kept forking, so there are no loops. If the river of time keeps on forking, there are no loops. Loops are whirlpools in the river of time. Whirlpools do cause contradictions, because you can go backwards in the past and meet yourself as a child and kill yourself as a child.
Yes.
So loops cause problems. But if you jump stream, then the stream simply forks again. So there are no contradictions. They're simply parallel realities, parallel versions of you.
But are you thinking, like, we all have one, like, you have one brain, one personality. So is there possibly another person, like, am I possibly another personality somewhere else?
Now you're babbling.
No, I'm not. Once I start doing air charts with my fingers to show basic shapes,
I was doing this.
Yes, it's a loop, doctor, as opposed to the square that you might think it is, and spinning his hand in a circle.
We're all trying to show our intelligence and failing miserably.
You know, we're like, I'm showing that I'm the dog who brings the paper, and you're the dog that wags the tail. That's how smart we
I'm
look.
the dog that wet the floor. I just made wet on the floor.
All right, let me try one.
All right, Opie.
Nostradamus and his quadrants.
Oh, okay.
Quatrains.
Quatrains.
Quadrants.
And his quads.
You tried, failed miserably. There.
Nostradamus.
That guy scares the hell out of me when that show comes on TV. Help me out so I can sleep at night. What is he all about?
Oh, yeah. Well, Nostradamus, I read him as a child because people would talk about the fact he predicted the future into the coming centuries, right? It's a political allegory. It was metaphors, different things. He wrote basically in code. And so he would criticize the powers that be in code. But if you don't know what his code was several hundred years ago, it comes out as a bunch of gibberish. So he says things like an emperor will rise from the east and battle a king from the west. I mean, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
It can be anything.
I always think that his stuff is interpreted after the fact as having been a prediction. So once something happens, you can interpret what he wrote as anything.
Right. And so people have taken the same quatrain and given numerous interpretations for the very same quatrain.
Right, yeah.
And, which version you're going to choose. They're all allegorical, and they were political. He was actually criticizing the political elite of the time in his own code. And so looking at it today, it just comes out super mystical.
Yeah.
So you could read anything you want into
concur.
it. Yeah,
I concur.
So you don't think it's possible then for him to have seen the future? Like with jumping rivers, is it possible to see the future?
No, because the river of time is marching forward. You don't know what's coming. You can jump stream into the past, but going into the future is quite difficult.
Now, is it possible that we will never time travel because if we were able to, somebody would probably come back to this time eventually, and we would have known that there would be time travel?
Well, I think that in the future, our future descendants may have the ability to create a time machine. So if somebody knocks on your door and claims to be your great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter, don't slam the door.
But wouldn't that have happened already? Why wouldn't they come back like now?
Maybe they have.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, boy.
Well, how about the theory? How about
I sent them away. I didn't answer the door.
How about the theory that that's what extraterrestrials are? Because they're probably robots, so sent back, actually built by us somewhere in the future.
Thinking about robots?
No, not robots, but they're not. They're like androids of some sort. They're not really actually thinking creatures. That they were sent from us from the future to kind of observe and watch our progress.
Oh, I got you.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you saw the movie 2001, the robots land on the moon, create a moon base to observe us. And that is actually the most realistic encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence. Because you're not going to send, if you're an advanced civilization, you're not going to send Captain Kirk from planet to planet to planet. There are too many planets.
That's silly.
The stupidest way to explore the galaxy.
That's just silly.
Captain Kirk, what an ass.
What you want to do is you want to send a robot to a moon which makes copies of itself. And then thousands of copies shoot out to land on moon to create thousands more copies for each robot. From one robot, you have 1,000, then 1,000 times 1,000, then 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000, and pretty soon you're colonizing the entire galaxy.
Where does it get the raw material to
the soil, the lunar soil provides the material to create copies of itself. And this is how a virus colonizes your body. A virus is a molecule. It colonizes trillions of cells in 2 weeks, and you're sneezing. But it's a molecule. So how does a molecule colonize your body to give you a cold? By landing on a cell, hijacking the reproductive machinery so that it creates thousands of more copies of itself, viruses.
Right.
This means that on our moon, there is probably evidence of a previous visitation on our moon. It's the most mathematically likely source of a visitation.
Can we go up there and get the evidence now?
We lost our interest.
We got 40 years.
I hate that. We should go back.
Better technology.
What do you think? Go back to the moon? Should we go back as people or machines?
I think as machines, because it costs $10,000 to about a pound of anything just around the Earth. That's your weight in gold. To go to the moon would cost your weight about $100,000 per pound. That's an awful lot of money to go to the moon.
Yeah, that is.
And how do we know they even hit that moon? They might have, who knows, those dumb aliens. They may have thrown it on one of Jupiter's moons and gone, all right, we got this area covered. And they're still waiting for someone to pop up on Jupiter.
Yeah, you don't know.
And
Never know.
you believe in aliens. I mean, we had an astronaut come out 2 days ago saying that the government's covering it up. They want Obama to open some files. You have no doubt that there's other things out there.
Yeah. In fact, just yesterday, it was announced that we have discovered the first Earth-like planet that weighs twice the mass of the Earth. It's too close to its mother star to have liquid water. But hey, we almost got a bullseye there. That's the holy grail, to find a twin of the Earth in outer space. So the Kepler satellite went up a month ago to look for 600 of these things. So late at night, when you look in the night sky, you will wonder if anyone's looking back.
Yeah, that's true. That has always been a little freaky. Somebody kind of looks at our star and is like, just kind of looking at it, not knowing that we're whizzing around it like that.
Yeah.
What about cell phones?
What about cell phones?
What are they going to become?
Oh, in the future?
Yeah.
Technology.
Yeah. He knows a little bit about technology.
Let me tell you what the Internet's going to become. The Internet's going to become the magic mirror of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Many futurists believe that the future will look like a Disney movie. For example, the magic mirror, you go up to it and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, and it answers any question you want. That's what the Internet will become eventually. Peter Pan is the future of medicine. We'll all live forever, or close to it, and we'll all be very childlike, and we'll be like Peter Pan. We'll never want to grow up. That's the future of medicine. And if you look at Pinocchio, that's the future of artificial intelligence.
Look how he has to talk to us.
That's what we were joking about. You talk to us the way we talk to babies. But he has to. He tried the other way, and we all failed miserably.
And I started drawing circles in my hand.
That's right. It was after that circle comment, it was right back to Disney characters. and Dumbo's big ears. We really are dopes.
Oh my God! I know. Whew.
We got Adriana in the studio.
Fantastic.
Big fan of Dr. Michio Kaku.
Oh,
she's the VP of marketing here at SiriusXM.
Hi.
Hello. Wants her book signed, but I'm wondering maybe she has a question for the great doctor. Maybe you have a little more intelligence than us.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, is that hard?
Yeah, exactly.
We're just being slammed by a genius. Yeah. I love it. Sure, step on up. Take Danny's mic.
Well, I just have to say I'm a huge fan, so I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, well, thank
with
you.
Question. Wow, this is tough. First thing in the morning. I guess my question would be, what, in your opinion, is the most exciting advance in theoretical physics that we in this room will actually live to
that's a good question.
enjoy, appreciate?
And that is.
Well, what's coming very fast is invisibility.
What?
We made enormous breakthroughs in that field. Just 2 years ago, proof of principle was demonstrated at Duke University. This violated every single physics book on the planet Earth. We were wrong about invisibility. It is possible. And at Berkeley, we were filming the group that did it for visible light as well. So this may mean that
our producer uses it all the time.
So wait, now invisibility works how? Like, is invisibility basically working like just masking you, or is it really making you not there?
Really making you invisible. In other words, think of a boulder in a river. The water goes around the boulder and reforms at the other end. If you're downstream, you don't know there's a boulder upstream. So same thing with Harry Potter. Light would go around Harry Potter, reform at the other end. And if you put him in a cylinder, for example, the light would follow the cylinder and reform the other end. Now, there are a lot of problems we have to solve. Harry Potter inside the cylinder cannot look outside. People looking in see nothing, but he cannot look outside. He has to drill 2 holes. So from the outside, you see 2 eyeballs floating in midair.
For Jimmy.
And that's how you know that Harry Potter is there.
But you would see a little bit then.
You see 2 eyeballs floating in midair.
That's the holes he drilled through the cylinder to see out.
Yeah, that's how you're inside the cylinder, and that's how you can see out. So this is coming very fast now.
How long do you think for that? 50 years?
No, just I think within 10, 15 years, we should have working prototypes that you can actually play with.
Now, we have a comedian who comes on named Bill Burr. He's a big conspiracy theorist. But I actually tied in something you said to what his paranoia, which was he was talking about how, like, when you look at the way the banks are collapsing and all the monetary stuff, it looks like it's going into one giant world government. And he was saying it's this crazy conspiracy and it's negative. But I started trying to explain your theory of going from type 0 to type 1. Whereas though maybe there's greed involved with it on some level, there is a certain natural progression going towards just becoming one planetary group.
I think it's inevitable. Unless we blow ourselves up, we will become a type 1 civilization in about 100 years. The internet is the beginning of a type 1 telephone system, a planetary telephone system. The European Union, when you talk about the economy, is the beginning of a type 1 economy. NAFTA, the European Union. English will be the planetary language. It already is the language of elites. And we're seeing the beginning of a type 1 culture. Rock and roll, blue jeans, rap music. That's the beginning of a type 1 youth culture. That's planetary.
But is that stuff all, like, a lot of people tie that into something being negative, too. Like, a couple of, these elites will control the banking. They'll control us through controlling the banking. How do you kind of say that, no, that's a good thing. That's not a negative control the sheep thing?
Well, take a look at the internet. At first, we thought maybe the internet would be like 1984. It could have gone 1984, but then the Soviet Union broke up, so the National Science Foundation gave the internet away. The internet is for free now as a consequence. 1984 is impossible. It is impossible to have a handful of people in a room control the world because the internet has decentralized opinion. Decentralize the way people meet, decentralize the way people interact. That's irreversible, I think. So we're headed for a planetary civilization that's more democratic. Now, terrorism. Terrorists really hate going to a type 1 civilization because a type 1 civilization is multicultural, multi-ethnic, progressive, scientific, not religious. And terrorists would prefer to live in a type -1 society where they don't get their energy from dead plants, oil and coal. They get their energy from campfires and maybe camel dung.
Right.
It's like playing some of those video games where you have to kind of evolve yourself from picking up sticks and stuff to buildings and better weaponry.
Yeah, so I think it's inevitable that we're going to become a planetary civilization. And then beyond that, type 2, stellar, like the Federation of Planets. Star Trek is a type 2 civilization. And then type 3 would be like the Empire of Star Wars, would be a type 3 civilization.
Ah, that's kicking ass.
Now, to switch gears, I have a question, too, because we have to deal a lot of times, we've interviewed a lot of these really annoying 9/11 conspiracy theorists, and there's a theory here about the towers fell. When you watch them fall, they never could have fallen at that. And I know there's a mathematical thing that explains why they fell at the rate they fell. What is that mathematical? Because I know it exists, but I'm too dumb to know what it is. But I have to just tell people.
Pull out a chalkboard out of his pocket and start writing it down. Formula for you, Jim?
There's something. It's called a certain type of theory which explains the rate that the building fell.
Well, first of all, the towers are more or less designed to do that, so it succeeded in that sense. Otherwise, the towers would have tipped over on its side, in which case you would have wiped out most of Manhattan, Lower East Side, Wall Street. So they were supposed to basically collapse like a pancake downward. Now, some people think that maybe explosives brought down the World Trade Center, but explosives are placed on the bottom of a building. The World Trade Center collapsed from the top, not the bottom, showing that explosives were not involved in the collapse of the World Trade Center. And then some people say, well, fire does not melt steel. Therefore, it must have been George W. Bush who brought down the World Trade Center. Well, of course, fire cannot melt steel. Fire weakens steel. And that's all you need.
Yeah, that's all it had to do.
That's all it had to do was weaken the steel to make the whole thing buckle one by one by one.
What was the, not to interrupt you, but what was the stuff? Because it looks like there's, people go, look at the video, there's liquid coming out of the building. See, that's melted steel. What is that looks like something melted steel, which couldn't happen?
Well, it's not melted steel. It's softened steel, but lots of debris came out, and there was all sorts of stuff inside the World Trade Center. It was a working metropolis with thousands of individuals. So as it went down, if you look at the videotapes, you can't really tell what was coming out because it's too small and the resolution of the tape is not very good. The point is, it went down according to the laws of physics, and it was more or less designed to do that.
What was the theory? Like they say, does it get faster as it's coming down?
Slightly faster, but not much faster. It's free fall. The building was basically in free fall because there was nothing preventing. In other words, this building is basically air. If you think about it, a building is basically air. Like, why can battleships float if battleships are made out of solid steel? And the answer is they're hollow. Same thing with the World Trade Center. The World Trade Center was basically hollow. So as it collapsed, it could collapse more or less at the rate of free fall.
Okay, because they say that there was that it shouldn't have collapsed as fast.
Yeah.
Is that the argument people make, that it shouldn't have collapsed?
Yeah, but it did. And it does. If you take a look at even buildings that are collapsed with dynamite, they collapse very fast because the supports collapse. Once the supports collapse, you're in free fall.
Is there a name for the mathematical explanation as to the rate? What is the name of
Well, it's basically free fall because each layer was getting heavier and heavier as it going down. The supports offered no resistance. And that, by definition, is free fall, something that Galileo studied hundreds of years ago.
Okay, I thought there was a name for the theory of how it... But okay, I guess that was...
So this pancaking was more or less designed into the World Trade Center so that it wouldn't topple over and destroy Wall Street.
All right, worked.
All right, good.
It worked.
It wasn't liquid steel flying out, because people say that, and I don't know how to respond to that.
No, it wasn't liquid steel coming out. There was no melted steel. Fire cannot melt steel, as people correctly point out. Fire weakens steel, and that's all you need.
Well, that fire, anyway. What about, like, ones that they use to melt steel in a steel mill?
Yeah, that's
that's
hotter. They use coal,
Yeah.
charcoal. Charcoal will go to very high temperatures, while ordinary paper cannot reach the melting point of steel.
Yeah.
Now, you say, you talk about eventually we're going to have, people want to just go, just disappear and appear somewhere else. Teleporting, right. Now, your theory was that we're still, 1,000 years away from that, or roughly?
We can teleport atoms now. We can teleport photons. A photon is a particle of light. So on Star Trek, when they say, shoot the photon torpedoes, a photon torpedo is a flashlight.
What dummies.
They really were. That's hilarious.
So we can teleport photons. We can teleport atoms now. Maybe a gene or a virus in the coming years. A human being is very difficult to teleport. That may take centuries.
Yeah, I would think.
Because you said that people
I would think. I concur.
People would have to die to be teleported and put back together.
You would see Captain Kirk dissolve and die, and then all of a sudden this other Captain Kirk comes saying that he's the real Captain Kirk. He has all the memories, mannerisms of Captain Kirk, and so you wonder about soul. If you die, and all of a sudden there's this carbon copy over there who has all your memories, where is your soul? Who are you if you just died?
That's did you see the movie The Prestige?
No.
Oh, okay. Because they actually had a machine that made an exact duplicate of yourself with the same memories and everything. And this magician was using it to teleport himself like across a stage. And meanwhile, the original him would drop down into the stage into a thing of water where he would then drown himself to keep doing this trick, but without having so many of him made every evening.
Teleportation.
Yeah, that would be some type of teleportation. It's insane.
It's a terrific movie.
I love that movie.
Michio Kaku.
Yes,
Can I jump in for a
highly
second?
recommend it.
You were talking about death, and there have been studies that right when you die, your body loses a few grams of weight.
You're supposed to lose something like 20 grams. However, people have tried to duplicate that experiment at hospitals. Nobody has been able to duplicate that.
Oh, they haven't?
No.
But why you say you're supposed to lose 20 grams?
Because it became an urban legend. Somebody
okay.
once did it and said that. There are a lot of urban legends out there that are very hard to verify.
And they're saying that 20 grams is your soul leaving your body, right?
Right. But at hospitals,
so that's
people
not true?
do weigh people before and after death, and they see no difference. So it's not easy to verify that statement.
So when
probably
you
evacuate too,
Well,
yeah.
No, they actually, the experiment was they were weighing the bed or something, So if you did, sorry, Doc, shit your pants, it's still in the bed.
It's on the bed, right?
Right.
Thank you for clearing that up, Opie.
Because the good doctor didn't know what evacuate meant.
Oh, my God.
It's amazing, like how we try to explain things to him. You explain what evacuating means. You make what a circle would look like.
Paradox
Yes.
in my hand.
Do you think we're dumb, Doc? How dumb do you think we really are?
I think you guys are play acting. You guys are smart as a fox.
We're play acting, so we're coming across as stupid.
He's saying you guys couldn't be as stupid as you're pretending to be.
Exactly. Let's go back to high school. If this was a lunch table, would you sit with us?
I think twice. A smart person can impersonate a dumb person, but a dumb person cannot impersonate a smart person or another dumb person.
Okay. I had another question. I forgot it. After you said that about us.
I have one.
Okay.
Since we were talking about Star Trek before,
Yes.
I would like to go back to that for just a minute.
Yes, my favorite series.
Obviously, warp speed is nowhere near attainable at this point in time.
Yeah.
But let's say some point in the future we could handle some kind of warp speed technology. Would a vessel similar to the Enterprise or a spaceship be able to even handle that kind of tremendous speed through the galaxy?
Yeah, in fact, we're going to answer that question for the Science Channel when we do this filming of Warp Drive.
Good question, Danny.
Yeah, there was a physicist who watched Star Trek. First time he watched it, he saw the thing zapping faster than light. So he said, well, he's a physicist. He's going to go back to Einstein's equation and find a solution that allows for Star Trek travel. And he found it. And here's how it works. Instead of going to the stars, you let the stars come to you. You compress the space in front of you and expand the space behind you, so you don't move at all. The stars come to you.
Like wormhole technology, pretty much?
This is not wormhole technology. Let's say you want to walk across a carpet. You're getting ahead of the game.
You're an idiot now, too.
Everyone knows that.
I'm glad you're stupid now, too.
I'm dumb.
No, wormholes are another way to do it. But this one is a la Star Trek now. What you do is, if you walk across the room to a table, you can walk across the room, or you can lasso the table, drag the table toward you, and then just hop across, because the carpet has been compressed. This is called the AlKabir Drive, and we actually interviewed him for the Science Channel. And he gave us a workable blueprint for what a starship may look like.
Wow. Now, not that I want to disagree, but what if you're compressing the air and actually pulling something?
Space,
Yes, pulling, yes, space.
There's no air in space, Jim.
No, I know. It's a vacuum, Dan. What if there's two people? What if there's one table, and you and I are across the room, and we both want to do that at the same time? How do we both pull the table without ripping it apart?
Well, you'd have to fight. Yeah, I mean, if the two starships got too close, then you would have interaction effects. You may have a collision. So the starships would have to be separated a little bit. What you do is you create a tube just like, in Star Trek, where you go shooting down the tube by compressing the space in front of you, in front of the tube. That's how it works. Think of one of those, escalators at airports that drag you horizontally.
Yes.
Same thing there. What happens is the escalator collapses space in the forward direction. Behind you, more escalator metal comes out, and you don't move at all. You're just sitting there, and the escalator...
relative to
But you are
the escalator, you're not moving.
You're not moving.
But then relative to the actual airport, you are getting from point A to point B.
That's how it works. By golly, he's got it.
But the escalator...
Redemption.
You want to draw little steppies on your hand?
Yeah, let me do that. Let me do this.
Yeah. But wait. I'm confused. The escalator wouldn't act as a ship which is transporting
Jim,
you?
do you want me to tell you again?
You're Dr. Anthony Kaku.
So the escalator pulls you along by compressing the space in front of you, expanding the space behind you. You don't move at all. You're just sitting there on the escalator, minding your own business, being skyrocketing to the stars.
So if someone from the north and if someone from the south were both attempting to do this at the same time,
well, you may have a collision then.
to get to a planet, to pull a planet, let's just say, and if you're pulling a planet, wouldn't you be pulling everything behind it? So if you're pulling a planet towards you, aren't you going to be pulling the guy waiting on the other side of the planet who also wants to pull the planet towards him? How do things not get ripped apart?
Well, yeah, you got to be careful. I mean, you don't want to get too close to another starship that wants to go to the same destination at the same time. But I should point out that the main drawback of this is the fuel. The fuel requires something called negative matter or negative energy. And if you watch the program Lost, that's also what drives the Lost program. All the bizarre machinations of time in that are due to a negative matter meteorite of some sort that landed on the island and moved the island. So this is a very rare substance, negative matter, negative energy. We've created some of it in the laboratory. On Star Trek, they call it dilithium crystals. Yes. The dilithium crystals make everything work. In physics, we give it a different name, negative matter and negative energy.
Do you know what loss is all about? Like what they're trying to do there?
Somewhat.
Because everyone has their theories on the internet. I mean, what do you think the whole show's about?
Well, Popular Mechanics actually asked me to write several essays explaining the science behind loss, if there is any. There's one episode where this elderly woman goes to a pendulum and begins to explain the whole thing. That the island is special. There's something on the island that allows them to create a tunnel network to other points, and that's how they're able to move the island, and by going through the tunnel, they're able to go to different points in space. That something on the island is probably a negative matter meteorite. Probably a meteorite that slammed into the island. Negative matter allows you to create gateways to other points in space and time, and that's what drives the entire series. That's why you have these bizarre things happening when people go backwards in time and meet themselves and stuff like that.
He's got to figure it out.
Yeah, he does.
That's why I block my ears.
Yeah, and
because I'm still in the I'm in the beginning of season 5.
What a great show! Only a theoretical physicist could figure that show out.
And I want to ask about ghosts.
Okay.
Do you believe in ghosts?
No, but at the turn of the century, many people believed that ghosts lived in a higher dimension. If you are looking down on a tabletop and there are two-dimensional people living on a tabletop like Cookie Men, you would have the power of a ghost.
He's got to use the term Cookie Men.
Cookie Men to Cookie Men.
And you know this is all going to be part of a promo sometime in the future.
Of course. Yes. All right. So we're looking down, two-dimensional.
You would have the power of a ghost. You'd be able to walk through walls. You'd be able to disappear, reappear by simply hopping over any partition on the tabletop. You could do anything that a ghost could do. So 100 years ago in England, many theologians said that ghosts live in a higher dimension. That's where they probably are. Now, since then, we kind of forgot the idea of higher dimensions, but now we're bringing it back in terms of string theory. In fact, at the Large Hadron Collider, opening up this summer, the largest machine of science, we hope to open up particles from the 11th dimension. So this is really hot stuff now. We think that the Big Bang took place in a higher dimension, and these higher dimensions are not science fiction. Ghosts don't live there. Strings live there.
So, like, how would you have explained that? Like, you're talking to complete layman, so you explained it very well.
Layman, that's
exactly. I'm
being nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Cookie Man.
He really did have to resort to like because he probably is like thinking, all right, these idiots probably like cookies with faces on them, and he's right, we do. They're delicious and they're fun to look at. How would you have explained that? He's looking at his watch. He's like, I've had enough of these boobs.
Idiots.
How would you have explained that to say if you were talking to another theoretical physicist and he had asked you that? How would you, because you wouldn't say that to him. How would you have said that?
We'd use it mathematically. We use a shorthand shop talk. So when two physicists get together, you wouldn't understand a word we say. So everything is a bunch of shorthand for equations.
So how would you say that to me if I was another physicist? Like, just say I was listening for a second. I'm just curious as to what that level of conversation is, which I know is...
Well, we have something called M theory, membrane theory, in which we have all the mathematics of 11 dimensions, and we look for classical solutions of these things, and then compare it with the data from the Large Hadron Collider. So this is coming very soon. Like I said, this summer, we're going to be comparing the data from the Large Hadron Collider with the predictions from string theory and M theory. And this can send shockwaves around the world that we have, quote, read the mind of God.
What is the M theory mathematically? Is that too long to say?
Yeah, it's a theory of membranes that vibrate in 11-dimensional hyperspace.
Oh, shit.
Well, no, I knew that, but I was asking for the audience.
Here's two physicists talking. What? I don't understand a word he's saying.
I think we got to get him out of here. When did you finish the 12th grade?
When did I finish the 12th grade? On time.
You weren't one of these, I'm 6 years old and I'm already in college guys?
No, I really didn't want to do that because I saw some people do that. They were kind of immature. And the danger is that you accelerate so much that your immaturity comes out and that it really retards your social integration. People think of you as being weird and you're shunned by your peers. You lead a lonely life.
We had one of those in my high school. He was like 12. He was like 6 years ahead. What's your guilty pleasure? Enough with this.
Yeah, it's a good question.
What do you like to do when you're not being a brain?
Something that isn't very something you wouldn't think somebody of your intelligence would enjoy.
He knows what a guilty pleasure is.
When I was a kid,
I was going to start explaining it like Cookie Man. Well,
a pleasure, but with guilt.
well, when I was a kid, I used to watch Flash Gordon on TV, and George Lucas too. If you watch Star Wars, it's a clone of Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
So even today, I get a thrill watching all these science fiction movies. I mean, I groan when they get the facts wrong. When they have rocket ships going, you in space.
Yes.
There's no air in space.
Smoke
rockets
is coming out the back.
Rockets do not bank in outer space. Jets bank because there's air, but rockets zigzag in outer space. But, I get a guilty pleasure because, hey, the special effects are neat, right? You get to see a glimpse of one man's conception of the future. So, I've seen them all. I've seen all the science fiction movies.
Very different than Jimmy's guilty pleasure. Jimmy?
It's kind of like the same thing, except with myself, I would probably say that men in dresses don't zigzag in space. I see The Good Doctor all the time. I don't want to give the wrong impression of myself. I'm a gentleman.
Yes.
All right, well, the book...
So are the people you're with.
That's not true at all. I happen to like girls. Sometimes we all make mistakes. The book is... I actually have the book, and it's great. It's like you're reading...
Is it easy to read?
It really is. There's parts of it, like the...
Are there pictures?
Yes, there are. And there's Beyond Einstein's a good book, and this one is Physics of the Impossible, a scientific exploration into the world of phasers, force fields, teleportation, and time travel. It's in paperback. There's been some updates, so if you have it, there's actually updates to the hardcover. And it's really cool to read this stuff because it's like there's once in a while he does get into the math of it, and like there's certain things he's explaining, M equals £, hat, and you're like, all right, I'm out. But with that stuff, you just kind of glance over because I will never be able to grasp that. But when you walk through the other stuff, it is actually you can comprehend what you're reading.
Yeah, that's
which is
important.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's very important. And it's a lot of pop culture stuff, which is good because a lot of people are interested in that and the workings of things like phasers and lightsabers and whatnot.
And like I said, it hit number 10 on the bestseller list, so somebody's buying the book.
Nice.
For a book on theoretical physics to hit number 10 on the bestseller list.
That's cool.
I mean, it's not quite as good as 4, but I mean, it's still very impressive.
You can count.
Great sense of humor.
No, I hit number 4, but it was a long time ago.
Jimmy, you got the plug sheet.
Yes, I do.
The TV show?
Yeah, the TV show. Well, first, the website is mkaku.org. This is how you spell it. MKAKU. If you just Google Michio Kaku, you'll find him online. There's all these great talks you give explaining, the planetary 0, 1, 2, 3 planetary types and all this stuff. And it's Sci-Q Sundays, 8 to 11 on the Science Channel. And that when your show is? When does your show start?
Well, the book itself will be serialized this November.
Okay.
So 12 episodes on the Science Channel. Each episode, ray guns, force fields, time travel, warp drive.
That sounds good.
And you work here in New York. You are you work at NYU.
City University of New York. That's right.
And you are, you are?
No. Henry Matt Professor of Theoretical Physics is the official title.
So is there anybody higher than you in physics at the school?
No.
No. That really was
at that level.
That was the only moment of disgust I saw coming out of that.
Wait,
no.
There are actual students that have to take your class?
Oh, yeah, he's a professor.
I'm a professor.
Well,
how hard is that class?
But you don't talk to them like as gently as you've spoken. Do you? When is the last time you said "cookie man" in class?
Nah, I teach, actually, believe it or not, elementary astronomy this semester. We're up to 500 students now. So I show videos every lecture. We have guest lectures, planetarium shows. It's a multimedia success, my course.
So is it, and we know you're leaving, but I have to ask you, the astronauts have been coming out. Project Blue Book for a long time was the Air Force's way of, I think originally it was done to debunk UFOs.
That's right.
And then the guy who I think was the head of it, who was a skeptic, became a believer.
That's
so it
right.
actually worked completely the opposite. And what was it that caused him to become a believer? Was it certain unexplainable videos?
Just the sheer volume. You see, for a physicist, we can explain, 95, 96, 97% of these sightings as the planet Venus, radar echoes, weather balloons, meteorites.
Swamp gas.
Swamp gas.
But
it's the remaining 2 to 3% that really give you the willies. There's a handful of these sightings, like the famous JAL sighting, that really give you the creeps.
What's that one?
These are multiple sightings by multiple modes. A JAL airliner going over the Pacific saw something off the ship. It was tracked by radar, seen visually, seen by the pilot and the co-pilot and the crew.
Pretty credible witnesses.
Yes, very credible. I mean, one person saying, "Hey, I saw a flying saucer." I mean, what does that mean?
Right.
Maybe he had a good time last night. But hey, the whole crew saw it, tracked by radar, seen visually. There are videos of it. I mean, you can see the radar trackings on the internet.
And pilots understand
things like that give you the creeps
because pilots understand enough about the way things travel in the air where, it's not a new piece of technology. Like even years ago, if a pilot saw a stealth bomber, he would have understood it was some type of a military plane. He wouldn't have thought it was a flying spaceman ship.
It's got wings. It's made to fly through the air. It has to travel in a certain way like aircraft do. If you get something that can just change direction doing 10,000 miles an hour, it's not an aircraft that's built here,
Yeah. Now, my own personal theory, as I mentioned, is that 2001 is based on the idea that on the moon there is a robotic probe left over from a passing Type 3 civilization. Perhaps periodically they just check up on us. So they're automated. There's no one in these things. They just are sent from, not from deep space, but from the moon.
And then they just send back a message. Still stupid. Come back later.
Still cookie man.
Cookie man.
Do you have any, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Adriana, do you have any final questions for the doctor? Because I know we've asked some, but you asked a better one than we did.
That's for sure.
Not hard.
That's a good question. Well, actually, I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
Just go to the mic so that people can hear.
I think one of the great things that you've done is bring a lot of this very exciting stuff going on in theoretical physics to people, everyday people. So we don't have to be physicists ourselves to stay tuned and understand what's being learned and asked. What would you suggest for people who are really interested in this as kind of the best way to stay involved and stay in touch? I mean, I literally, you can read all the books that come out, but what are some other suggestions for people who are really into this stuff?
Well, the web has really opened up enormous possibilities. Of course, there are quite a few books being written. I've written some. My friends have written some books. But there are also public lectures. There are also stuff from NASA, nasa.gov. The Large Hadron Collider is coming out this summer. Plenty of press releases about that. So if you just get on the web, there's just so much happening. Next month, for example, a Tom Hanks movie comes out about antimatter blowing up the Vatican. Quite a few science fiction movies coming out next month. And Kepler is up in space now, and we'll be detecting maybe up to 400 Earth-like twins in outer space. So every month there's going to be some kind of breakthrough being made in physics. So this is a very exciting time to be alive, and on the web you can keep track of all this.
Very cool. Thank you.
There you go. Just pop it in a search engine.
Yeah, let's get the good doctor out of here.
And the paperback is in stores now?
That's right. That's right. And again, this fall, the book will be serialized on the Science Channel beginning November.
Great.
Very cool.
Thank you very
Doctor,
much.
thank you
Always,
so much.
My pleasure.
Always
Anytime.
fun.
Give me a
Always
call.
fun.